Hello everyone, and welcome to Trending in My Life. This week it's the move wrap up. So I'm looking back over how we managed to move and the things I learned and what I might do differently. So you'll have to excuse the lighting, although I expect I'll mess around in editing to get that right. My lights are here, I just haven't unpacked them yet. Hopefully by next week I'll have more of a set up and perhaps my green screen up and things will be more back to normal. But I decided to wrap things up this week because although I've still got I've still got boxes to unpack. We basically thinking of this as home, and we've got a lot unpacked now, and it's just the last few bits. So I want to wrap up the series that I've been doing and talk to you about how it all went. So going back to the beginning, that was when we were given 2 months' notice just out of the blue. And if this ever happens to you, and I imagine it will happen to some people in London, well, you just have to throw yourself into it. Originally, it was very much, oh my God, what are we going to do? It's only 8 weeks to find somewhere to do the referencing, to get in and out of the other place. But it worked, you know. We did do it. It is possible. It's just a lot to cope with in your headspace at the moment that it happens. So all I would say to you is, I mean, we wrote a list of what we needed to do. You know, we knew we need to property search, and then we need to, once we'd found somewhere, we needed to make sure we had all our referencing documents in place, and then have a date and start booking removals, and then of course when we got in, it was all setting up all the services from this address and cancelling them at the old address. So there's kind of a sort of steps to this kind of move, and once you see it on paper, you kind of deal with one thing at a time. For us, the property search was a bit of a bugger because it was, you know, we saw 9 properties before this one, or this was the 9th, and some of them were okay but too small, but some of them were like, they should have been condemned. They were really bad. And when you're viewing ones like that afterwards, you're so down and feel like, oh my God, you know, I don't want to end up living in a place like that. So I would say persevere, you know, just keep plugging away at viewing a lot. Don't feel that, you know, you view 3 and that's it. Keep going, and eventually, like with us, we walked into this place and we both looked at each other and went, you know, it's nice. It's like that. It's unbelievable, but it's nice, because you'd seen so many dives. And yeah, and then I mean the whilst you're packing to move to the new place, you still have to think about your deposit and making sure the old place looks like you kept it well, which I'm sure you did. But you know, I went through mowing the garden and tidying the weeds up and stuff like that, which may seem minor, but it was in our tenancy contract that the garden was kept weeded and mowed and stuff like that. So I had to make sure that was done, and I liked the garden anyway, so I wouldn't have left it a mess. In the meantime, there was doing touch-up painting here, there and there, and then of course another thing we had to do is book an end of tenancy clean. That's often in contracts for people, and it's a bit of a toss-up when you go to book one of those. You don't know what they'll be like. As turned out okay, but I was shocked when just one girl turned up to do the whole house. It seemed a lot because the previous time I'd moved, there had been 3 people in a team turned up, and that was only a flat, and she was cleaning a 3-bedroomed house. But it's a sign of the times that they cut back on staffing levels and stuff like that, and it turned out she did an excellent job. There's always little bits that you notice afterwards and do yourself, but yeah, she did an excellent job, so we were okay with that. So when you're hunting for a property, persevere, don't give up, don't let things grind you down. That's what I learned from that, and I think that's good advice for people. When you find the place that you want to move to, persevere with the referencing, because the estate agent for this place kind of had a weird referencing system. It was all done online and through an app, and you couldn't explain to an app if it asked you a question and you didn't really have an answer for it because didn't seem appropriate to your situation and stuff. That's difficult. Before, we'd always dealt with an actual estate agent doing referencing, and therefore you can speak to the person and explain when something doesn't quite fit the question. But eventually we got that. After it took a couple of weeks just to get through that referencing process, and it wasn't that the references were no good, it was just the app was very difficult to deal with. And just for an example, it wanted my passport scanning, but it also wanted me to pose for a selfie, and so it could match one to the other, and it kept saying they didn't match. Well, I have a 10-year passport, which is sort of at least 5 years into it, and I do look different. We all age, and I've changed my hair and stuff like that. So that was, I remember feeling very irritated by that. It was like, it is me, good grief. So, but yeah, eventually that all got sorted, and in hindsight it wasn't so bad, but you're just so the property isn't yours until you've gone through the referencing and put down the deposit and the rent in advance. So you feel very anxious at that stage. So all I would say would be to take a deep breath and don't worry, it's all going to work out. When we went through the booking removals process, I would say definitely shop around, use Google or whatever to check how many stars the company has, people's reviews, stuff like that. Because the first one we picked was simply the one we'd had before and had been very good 3 years ago, but they quoted us an extortionate £2,000 to move us, and we just could not afford it. So then it was a bit of a crapshoot. You just had to look at reviews, and what we did was we just picked someone very local to it was sort of in between. The company's main office was in between where we were living and where we were going to live. So we thought they're nice and local to get to us and stuff like that. And that worked out brilliantly. I was thrilled to bits with how great they were on the removal day. A little anecdote here. They arrived and I still hadn't finished packing my room. That wasn't intentional, but I'd been up till midnight, started taping together boxes upside down, and decided I had to go to bed at that point and start again in the morning. But my room was the only room really that wasn't finished packing, and I'd done the kitchen, I'd done the lounge and stuff like that, or helped with it anyway. So I just left my room, and it wasn't maybe 4 or 5 boxes and it was done. But at the point they arrived early in the morning and they just walked round room to room looking at the big furniture. And I noticed out the corner of my eye a pair of knickers, and I was like, oh my God, this is so embarrassing. And then I thought to myself, these people must have seen so much, in moving hundreds and thousands of people, that they really aren't even going to notice. And if they did, they never said anything, thank goodness. But yeah, that's one of those funny things. But it was very lucky. I felt very fortunate to have got a company that was so good. They were brilliant. Okay. in that vein, the packing issue, you've never got as much time as you think. And we were very conscious of how much time we had, and we were packing every single day, but we still didn't do enough. And I think the trouble was, when you're property searching, you can't get motivated to pack, and actually you need to be packing in your spare hours of property searching, because there's never enough hours to pack. You always run out, and it's so difficult at the end. So yeah, my advice there would definitely be pack one box every day, just to get it going. Yeah, okay, right. Moving day. Like I said, the movers were brilliant. We got here, but then this was a stress that I hadn't expected, never experienced before. There were things wrong with the house, the new house. The fridge freezer was broken, and we are now 2 weeks into the tenancy, and it hasn't been replaced yet. We're hoping it will be replaced next week, but we did the practical thing and paid out 250 quid and bought a fridge. We already had a small freezer of our own, but I don't know how we would have managed if we hadn't done that. We got it delivered within 2 days of moving in. And we were already like, oh, I've got no milk for a cup of tea. Because we desperately needed that fridge. Just quality of life wise, we needed to do that. And I would say, practically speaking, you have to weigh things up and say to yourself, my need and quality of life versus waiting for a landlord, or in this case a landlady, to replace something, and be practical and sensible about it. I don't regret having to lay out the money. I'm annoyed that we had to, because I feel like that should have been checked by the agents, and that should have been replaced before we moved in, because it was broken. But I don't regret paying out to replace it with something small of our own, just to keep us going. I don't regret that. And we'll have use for it in the future anyway, the under-the-counter fridge, so that's okay. But yeah, never experienced moving into a property and needing repairs immediately when we moved in. And then there was the leaking sink issue, which seems to have all been sorted out now. Don't rush to unpack, I would say. Live your life. You don't want things in boxes for months, but after the whole move thing, give yourself a break and just go and live your life for a couple of weekends and then get back to the boxes, because you've been through a very stressful time. And enjoy wherever you've moved to. Enjoy it, get used to the area, find the little shortcut paths, which I've been doing lately here, and enjoy your new home. And I wish anybody that's moving, I wish you well and hope it runs smoothly. I really do. But this is the end of the Move series, and I think I've learned that just when you think the stressful bit is over, there's another stressful bit. So it's not over till you're completely moved in and have been settled in for a couple of weeks, and then you can breathe a big sigh of relief and you're there, you're home. Anyway, thank you for watching, especially if you've watched the whole series. I will now carry on with my life, which I often vlog on here anyway, so you'll see me out and about in London. Yes, so if you've enjoyed this, please like, comment, subscribe, share with a friend, and come back next time. Bye for now.